All right, we're going to go over the review. Your test is tomorrow, and so if you have any questions, write them down. I'll answer them the first 2 minutes of class. So number one, what is the y value in the solution to the system of equations? And so on number one, you should be going to your calculator. So if I go here, we're on a calculator page, menu, 3 for algebra, and then 2 for solve systems, and I have 2 equations, so I keep it x and y. And I type the first equation in the first box, y equals 3x minus 5. And I type the second equation in the second box, y equals, but now I need to put a fraction because the 15 plus 8x is on top and the 7 is on the bottom. And so my answer is 50 thirteenths and 85 thirteenths. And so I wrote that down on my paper. However, this problem says what is the y value? And so this is x and this is y, so my answer is 85 thirteenths. Number 2, the graphs of lines K sub 1 and K of 2 are shown on the grid. Which system of equations is best represented by this graph? And what you should actually do is I showed you how to cover up the x and find the y-intercept. So if I cover up the x and I divide by -1, my y-intercept is -6. And here I have a y-intercept of -6. So that's a possibility. And then if I were to do that for the second one, I would divide by 9. And I would get a y-intercept of 4/9, which is smaller than 1. So A is probably my answer, but I'm going to show you on the next one. Cover up this, my y-intercept is 10. Well, there's nothing that crosses at 10, so C is out. Here, if I cover this up, my y-intercept is -2 because we're dividing by -1. And there is nothing that crosses at -2, so B is out. And the last one, 2 negatives divide and give you a +6. So D is out. So use some of the information that I've taught you to process of elimination. After this, if you wanted to go to your calculator and graph it, you could. Just remember that when you graph it, you need to delete the equal sign and pick a relation before you type it in, and you're just looking to see where does it cross. And you push tab to get a second equation, 4x plus 9y equals 4. Okay, so it crosses at all the same points. That was the answer. Number 3, the function y equals 2.35 plus 1.25 times x minus 1 can be used to determine the cost in dollars for a taxi ride in x miles. What is the rate of change of the cost in dollars with respect to the number of miles? Remember, rate of change means your slope. And if I were to move this back over here, which I'm not really going to do, this would be in point slope form. And when it's in point slope form, you know that the number in front of the parentheses is your slope. So my answer here was C. Number 4, Mr. Harrington's farm is 20 acres smaller than twice Mr. Grover's farm. This right here gives you an equation. Together, they have 109 acres. That's your total. And we're using G and H. G for Grover, H for Harrington. So if I'm going to get a total, G plus H have to equal 109. So if I don't have that equation, then it's not the right answer. Then here, Mr. Harrington is H. Is your equal sign. 20 acres smaller means I'm taking away 20 from twice Mr. Grover. That's G from 2G. So H equals 2G minus 20. So my answer here was D. Now, if I go to my calculator, I want to go back to a calculator page, menu 3, 2, and I can use X and Y, but I can also change these to G and H. You just got to put a comma in between. and I'm going to type them in. H equals 2G minus 20, and G plus H equals 109. And it asks how many acres are on Mr. Grover's farm. Well, Grover was G, and G came first, so G is 43. So my answer is 43 acres. Number 5. Zane is selling chocolate bars and Dum-Dums to raise money for a school trip. The chocolate bars cost $3.25 each, and the Dum-Dums cost $1.76 each. Write an inequality that represents the number of chocolate bars, C. So chocolate bars are C. And the number of Dum-Dums, D. So there we go. To raise at least $500. At least means greater than or equal to. You need at least a 70 to pass my class. So you need a 70 or more, greater than or equal to. So if I don't have that symbol, it's out. And then 325 goes with C. So that one's out. So making D my answer. Number 6. Which of the following inequalities best describes the graph shown below? And so remember, if it says y is something, like that's in slope-intercept form, so you know that your y-intercept is 2, which means it'd cross up here. So that's not your answer. And then if you're looking at letter B, you really want to look at the symbol. Okay, so if I look at the symbol on letter B, it's less than, which means it would actually be a dotted line. And so that one is also out. Again, you can graph all of these to see which one would make sense. So in order to check from here on out, I'm going to go to my graph page. We're going to pick a relation, and we're going to type in letter C. X plus 2y is greater than or equal to -4, and that one's shaded above, so C is out. And then if I were to change it to the other symbol, because it's the same exact inequality but the different symbol, then I have a solid line shaded below. So D, whoops, D is my answer. Okay, on number 7, what is the equation in slope-intercept form of the line that passes through 8, -5, and is perpendicular to the line represented by y equals 4/7x plus 2. So the slope is 4/7, and perpendicular means opposite sine reciprocal slope. So that means I'm going to change it to a negative, and I'm going to flip it upside down. So it has to say -7/4. So A and B are out. And then at that point, I need to know which one crosses through 8, -5. So again, we go back to a graph page. And I'm going to use a relation just because I can. Y equals -7/4. X minus 19. I'm typing in answer choice C. And then if I press menu 5, 1, and I want to know if it crosses at 8, -5, I just type the number 8 and press enter, and it tells me -33, which means C is probably not my answer. So instead of just typing a new one, I'm going to go delete what doesn't match up, and this letter D says +9. And so now if I press menu 5, 1, and I type in 8 and press enter, it says -5. And so since that one matches, D is my answer. All right, number 8. A bus travels 2 different routes, the red route and the orange route. The routes are different lengths. On Wednesday, the bus traveled the red route 8 times and the orange route 7 times, traveling a total of 131 miles. On Thursday, the bus traveled the red route 16 times and the orange route 21 times, traveling a total of 325 miles. What is the length of the red route in miles? Now you could use R for red route, but you really don't want to use O for orange route because O looks like a 0. And so instead I'm going to say the red route is X and the orange route is Y. And so when I write my equations, I'm going to get one equation for Wednesday. The red route 8 times, so 8x, plus the orange route 7 times, so 7y, equals 131. And then on Thursday, we have the red route 16 times, plus the orange route 21 times, equals 325. Now I have a system of equations, so I'm going to I'm going to go to a calculator page, and we're going to do menu 3, 2. We're going to type them in. 8x plus 7y equals 131. And then I have 16x plus 21y equals 325. And so my answer is 17 over 2, 9. Remember, red route was x. So I'm looking for the x value, which is 17 over 2. And if you're not sure what 17 over 2 is, then if you press Control Enter, it will change it and give you the answer. So my answer here is D. Number 7. Which equation is equivalent to 7x minus 2y equals 16? You could graph this and then graph that and see which one matches. Okay. However, a couple things. One, remember, if you divide by -2, you're going to get a -8. So that eliminates 2 choices. But let's just solve this equation. So remember, brick wall, box in your y, minus 7x. I'm going to write my new answer over here. So I have -2y equals 16 minus 7x. And we divide every term by -2. So y equals -8. 2 negatives here make a positive 7 over 2x. So 7 over 2x has to be positive, and 8 has to be negative. So my answer is C. And so if you don't know how to solve that, what I'm going to do is go to a graph page, and I'm going to delete the equal sign, pick a relation. We're going to type in the question was 7x minus 2y equals 16. And then if I press tab and I type in my answer choice, if I type in the wrong answer choice, so like if I type in A, y equals negative 7 over 2, x plus 8, oops, okay, it doesn't overlap. But if I were to change it to the correct answer choice, 7 over 2x minus 8, it overlaps the green line exactly. So that's one way to check your answer. Now I'm going to go to a new graph page for number 10. Because on number 10, it says, what is the slope of the line represented by 9x minus 4y equals 16? And again, on this one, you can solve it like we did on number 9, and then the slope is the number in front of x. Or you can type it into a graph page, 9x minus 4y equals 16. And remember, if you press menu 6, 5, and you hover over your line, it tells you your slope, 2.25. And so if I look at my answer choices, well, 2.25 is positive, and 2.25 is bigger than 1, so it has to be A. And again, if you're not sure, you can go change these to decimals. All right, number 11, the graph of the linear equation 4x minus 3y equals 12 is shown below. Which coordinate pair is in the solution set of 4x minus 3y is greater than 12? So the first thing I would do is go to a graph page, and I would type in the inequality, the one at the bottom. 4x minus 3y is greater than 12. and I would see that my line is dotted and we're shaded below the line. So this is really a dotted line and we're shaded below. And then we plot our answer choices. 4, -3. Well, that's in the solution. But 0, -4 is on a dotted line, so that doesn't count. 3, 0 is also on the dotted line. And then -3, 4 is outside of the shaded area. So A was our answer. Now number 12. The table below represents a linear function, which is a correct representation of the table. Okay, so this one here, it might take you a little bit of time. So I'm going to go to a graph page, and I'm going to type in number 1, which says 2x plus 5y equals -15. And the first point on the table is -10. So if I do menu 5, 1, and I type in -10, I get 1. Well, here, -10 gives you 7. So that means the number 1 is out. And by process of elimination, that means 1, A and C are also out. And so if I just use process of elimination, 2 only, or 2 and 5, which means let me go check number 5, because obviously 2 is an answer. So let's go type in number 5. So it says y minus 1 equals -2/5 times x minus 5. And if I press menu 5, 1 and I type in -10, it gives me 7, which also matches. But let me check another point. If I type in -5, it gives me 5, 10 gives me -1, and 30 gives me -9. And so since all of those match up, oops, then that is why number 5 also works, which means D is your answer. Okay, number 13. What is the equation and slope of the line graphed? So remember, a vertical line, the slope is undefined, and this is the only one that says that.